There's not a single solitary email to or from you to or from Ambassador Stevens.
He had no official position in the government, and he was not at all my advisor on Libya. He was a friend who sent me information that he thought might be in some way helpful.
And as you can imagine, tempers flared. Ranking Democrat Elijah Cummings saying Republicans were just trying to bring down the Democratic frontrunner with gotcha questions.
You have laid it out. I think you have said this has not been done perfectly. You wish you could do it another way. And then the statement that you made a few minutes ago when you said, you know, I have given more thought to this than all of you combined. So I don't know what we want from you. Do we want to badge you over and over again until you get tired, until we do get the gotcha moment that he's talking about?
Illinois' Peter Roskam took Clinton to task for wanting to take credit for what was supposed to be a success story in Libya until it was no longer politically convenient.
A couple of hours ago, you told me, hey, I'm the diplomat here. I'm driving the policy. And isn't it true that you'd been thinking about getting political credit actually for months on this?
No.
You were thinking about credit for you, isn't that right?
No, that's not. I wanted those who were part of this policy to be given recognition.
And one of the more dramatic moments came when Indiana's Susan Brooks pressed Clinton on the last time she spoke to Ambassador Chris Stevens.
Did you ever talk to Ambassador Stevens when all of this was going on in the hotbed of Libya? Well, that is a yes or no question, Madam Secretary. I'm sorry. Did you ever personally speak to Ambassador Stevens after? We don't know the answer. Did you ever personally speak to him after you swore him in May? Yes or no, please?
Yes, I believe I did. But
and when was that?
I don't recall.
I mean, it captivates me again, seeing it a second time, Senator. What was your take overall on these fiery exchanges and the hearings in general?
Well, you know, the last question reminds me of the question I asked her when she came before my committee. I said, did you read the cables? Begging for more security. In the last month before the attack, Colonel Wood, who had the last remaining security force, had 16-man security force. They were saying there's a possibility we'll be overrun. They were sending cable after cable. Ambassador Stevens at one point sends a cable. We're not talking about an email now, a cable, which is an important communication from the ambassador to Hillary Clinton, directly to her. I said, did you read the cables? And she said no. So she was busy sort of building this lineage, this flying all around the world, going everywhere. And yet this was one of the most dangerous places in the world, asking more security. And I think this is incredibly important because I think that we need to learn from our history. And when you elect a commander-in-chief, you need somebody who would actually defend our diplomatic missions. And she failed. Not once, but dozens of times they asked her for more security. For about a 9-month period, they kept asking for more security, and every time she denied them the security.
Okay, but how does she walk away from those hearings yesterday, Julie? I mean, do you think public perception of her changed?
Yeah, I think this is a Rorschach test. I think if you liked Hillary Clinton before, you thought she did a great job. She certainly took questions for 11 hours. Donald Trump says he can't sit through a 3-hour debate. She just took questions for 11 hours. Senator, I've got to ask you, though, are you now willing to put more money into embassy security? Are you more willing to put more money in the budget now? Because I know Congress drastically slashed the State Department budget. And now I find it interesting that people are talking about more security for Benghazi when Congress went ahead and did that.
Well, one of the interesting things is if you look at the money and where they were spending the money leading up to the attack in Benghazi, in that summer, Hillary Clinton approved $100,000 to send 3 comedians to India on the Make Chai Not War. Hillary Clinton spent $650,000 on Facebook ads. Seems they didn't have enough friends. She spent $700,000 on landscaping for the Brussels embassy. And here's the clincher, $5 million on embassy barware and glassware. But she didn't have enough money to appropriate. There was plenty of money for security. She just had other priorities.
Why did you cut the budget then?
We didn't cut the budget.
You didn't cut the security budget?
If you actually look at the security budget, security went up every year.
You didn't cut the State Department budget?
No, State Department budget went up every year. If you look at the spending, see, this is the game that is played in Washington. It's kind of a parlor game. The game is, oh, they cut spending. Well, no, we don't even cut the rate of increase in spending. That's usually what we're looking at. If you look at year after year spending in security in the State Department, went up every year.
Okay, well, we'll have to check that out.
And I would think that Hillary Clinton would have used that as an argument had it been really a factor in all of this. I mean, what they were asking for primarily, outside of the 5 extra personnel, some of which they got, they wanted sandbags. My goodness gracious, you could bag those up for less than $100.
Right.
You know, we showed a little bit of Representative Susan Brooks. And, you know, before yesterday, my big question was Americans had pretty much tuned out. What's the tune-in point? And if we've got a picture of those 2 stacks of emails, it was one of those moments where you looked up to see what was happening, which I wonder if Americans have really paid that much attention. The big pile that you see there on the left are from 2001 regarding Libya, emails that Hillary Clinton was sitting back and forth with her staff and so on and so forth. And then she had a pile of just 67 for 2012. So what happened? Did she lose interest? Did they lose a bunch of emails? I mean, there's just a lot of question about whether or not she really had her eye on the ball.
That's true. And it's also the deceit. I mean, how are you sending one email to the Prime Minister of Egypt acknowledging that this is an attack and then sending someone out repeatedly to deceive the American people and talk about this video? I mean, that guy wound up in jail. That became the story. The video became the story instead of what should have actually been the story, which is that this administration was doing a terrible job when it came to terrorism, when it came, terrible job of maintaining peace in Libya. They wanted a narrative. I think that's pretty clear right now. My question for you, Senator, though, is when you look at her polling, when you look at trust issues, when you look at honesty, people really doubt that with her. When they see this, is the American public just going to say, oh, well, it was the fog of war, or is this going to impact her in the same way that the email scandal has?
I think it's a constellation of things, but what I take from this as the most important, more important than the emails, frankly, more important than the spin afterwards, is that really it's the 9 months preceding Benghazi, and that it appears that on multiple occasions when they asked for more security, when they asked more sandbags, more soldiers, et cetera, they were denied. But there's another story here also. Why were we in Libya, and was it a good idea? Hillary Clinton was the biggest proponent, bugging President Obama, saying we need to topple Gaddafi. Well, if you look at Libya now, it's a failed state. There is no government. A third of those in Libya pledge allegiance to ISIS. I contend that not only did she not provide adequate security for Benghazi, but that she was a proponent of a war that actually made things less stable and made it worse off, and actually made it more likely that we will be attacked from someone in Libya.
Julia, at times during this hearing, emotions, as we said, were running high, and to an interesting degree for Hillary Clinton, perhaps a side we don't see from her very often. We have some sound of her actually referencing that she has lost more sleep than the entire panel put together over the Benghazi attacks. I want you to listen.
You know, I would imagine I've thought more about what happened than all of you put together. I've lost more sleep than all of you put together. I have been racking my brain about what more could have been done.
Your response to that, Julia?
Well, I don't know how to quantify who's lost more sleep. I don't sleep with any of these people, so I don't know who stayed awake doing it. I can tell you, look.
But the point that she's bringing that up.
Well, why wouldn't she bring that up? Look, she was Secretary of State. This happened on her watch. She took responsibility for it. I don't think she's ever said that this is not my fault. She took responsibility for it. You go on to then say that she could have done what? Because I had dinner with the former ambassador yesterday. I asked him about protocol of this. And when this kind of stuff happens, you don't call the Secretary of State. You call somebody called the Regional Security Officer. You call diplomatic security. And that's who you call. So for anybody to sit here and say Hillary Clinton purposely let this man die, I think, is a horrible thing to say to her. And it goes way too far. And I think when you have responses like that, that's when people say, okay, this is no longer something that's a legitimate investigation. In fact, this is just going after her for partisan reasons. If she were running for president, you and I both know she would not have spent 11 hours testifying yesterday.
So, Senator, last word to you. Do we walk away from this hearing now learning anything new? Julia, you alluded to the public perception isn't changing after this.
Well, you know, I don't question whether Hillary Clinton was concerned or whether she feels bad about it. That's not for me to question her feelings about it. But we do have to question her judgment. You know, she's running to be president of the United States, and was her judgment good? Did she oversee a State Department that provided adequate security? Did she oversee a State Department that advised the best counsel in Libya? What's the best counsel to topple Gaddafi? I argue that there's one thing you can know from the Middle East, and that's when we topple secular dictators, we've gotten chaos and the rise of radical Islam. And I think we're more at risk for attack from Libya than we were before they toppled Gaddafi. So I think she made an error in judgment in wanting to be there in the first place, and then she made and compounded that error by not providing adequate security. And I'll give one other example. In Somalia, you remember in Mogadishu, the movie Black Hawk Down, and how that was a terrible disaster for America? In the investigation, they found out that Les Aspin had turned down adequate equipment for Mogadishu. Bill Clinton let him go. So I think if Bill Clinton had been president now with Hillary Clinton, I think he'd have let Hillary Clinton go for not doing her job, same way he did with Les Aspin.
I wonder if anybody will be let go.
That's a good point.
All right. Great to get your perspective on that, Senator. The Pentagon names the first American casualty in the fight against ISIS, but still refuses to call the U.S. mission combat. This as a new report finds ISIS attacks are dramatically increasing around the world. Plus, free speech again under assault on our campuses after one of America's most elite universities cuts funding to its own newspaper. Find out why.
Did you know that good nutrition is critical for brain health?
Brain food.
Ensure has B vitamins that help support brain health. Now that's smart nutrition.
Ensure's complete balanced nutrition has 26 vitamins and minerals and 9 grams of protein. Ensure, take life in.
Introducing the Joe Survival Suit by Joseph Abboud with innovative fabric. A breathable chest piece with a lightweight construction. And a slim fit designed to move with you. Available exclusively at Men's Warehouse.
For over 200 years, the stock market has been going up and down like a roller coaster. And it seems like everybody's giving you advice on what you should do with your retirement money. But most people just want to earn a reasonable rate of return and keep it simple. Is that what you want? Get your investor's kit and learn how to never lose money when the market goes down and earn a reasonable rate of return. And on the DVD, I'll personally explain how it works. You decide if it's right for you.
Call 800-557-7379 or neverlosemoney.com.
I'm your spokesperson. This is an important message for anyone who took the prescription drug Xarelto or Pradaxa and had a serious bleeding event. If you or a loved one took Xarelto or Pradaxa and suffered from a serious bleeding event, call 1-800-BAD-DRUG immediately. Xarelto and Pradaxa have been linked to serious internal bleeding, stroke, and death. Call 1-800-BAD-DRUG. You may be entitled to compensation. Call now for a free consultation. 1-800-BAD-DRUG.
With my moderate to severe ulcerative colitis, the possibility of a flare was almost always on my mind. Thinking about what to avoid, where to go, and how to deal with my UC. To me, that was normal until I talked to my doctor. She told me that Humira helps people like me get UC under control and keep it under control when certain medications haven't worked well enough.
Humira can lower your ability to fight infections, including tuberculosis. Serious, sometimes fatal infections and cancers, including lymphoma, have happened, as have blood, liver, and nervous system problems, serious allergic reactions, and new or worsening heart failure. Before treatment, get tested for TB. Tell your doctor if you've been to areas where certain fungal infections are common, and if you've had TB, hepatitis B, are prone to infections, or have flu-like symptoms or sores. Don't start Humira if you have an infection.
Raise your expectations. Ask your gastroenterologist about Humira. With Humira, control is possible.
The smoking gun of Benghazi.
If we'd have left immediately, they'd still be alive today.
The inside account revealed tonight on a Fox News reporting special.
Hi, I'm Matt McCoy. How long have you had your car insurance? I ask because I had mine for over 20 years. Before I switched and saved hundreds with the AARP auto insurance program from the Hartford.
I had done a lot of comparison shopping. The rate was like half of what I was paying.
$404 is the average amount folks save when they switch to the AARP auto insurance program from the Hartford. You know, it makes me wonder why everyone 50 and over hasn't switched.
How much could you save? If you're age 50 or over, call now to request your free quote.
Customers also appreciate lifetime renewability. It's the Hartford's promise not to drop you, even if you're in an accident.
Save $404 on average and get lifetime renewability.
You've got to consider it. You've got to consider it.
Call the Hartford at 1-800-684-2805 or go to gohartfordauto.com today. Get this free calculator just for requesting a quote.
Well, the Pentagon is now identifying the soldier who was killed in a daring raid against the Islamic State in Iraq. He's 39 years old. Master Sergeant Joshua Wheeler of Roland, Oklahoma, a special operations officer who died of wounds sustained on a mission to rescue dozens of Iraqi hostages who were facing what we're told was imminent execution by ISIS. It's the first time an American service member has been killed in the coalition fight against ISIS. Still, the administration is refusing to call the overall U.S. effort there combat. And it's sticking to the terms train, advise, and assist. That's all we're doing over there. And the development, this one. A new report shows ISIS is more evil and deadly than ever, with an increase in daily attacks in the past 3 months. Jane's Terrorism and Insurgency Center did the research. We now know that there have been more than 1,000 attacks worldwide in that time, a 42% increase. You know, Senator, when I hear this and I hear kind of the back and forth about words do matter, though. Words matter. Wherever this man was and what he was doing, if it's combat, it's different than if we're training and advising. Can you tell me why the words matter?
Well, I mean, one, this is an incredibly brave young man that gave his life for his country and for all the things that we believe in, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and our freedom. And it is sad, and it'll be sad for his family if someone's not calling this combat, because sometimes it makes a difference as to how he's remembered through the honors that he will get as a soldier. And so, yeah, it is important. I don't know all the details of what it will be, but I think it's important to honor, obviously, his sacrifice and what he did for us.
Do you think it speaks to a larger issue of what exactly we're doing over there that we can't even label it?
Yeah, and I think that it is a struggle, and sometimes we have war where there are variations of evil on both sides of the war, and people want them to be simple. People say, well, Assad is evil. Yeah, but so is ISIS. And then some people want to bomb both sides, which I think is a ridiculous kind of thing to do. But I think we have to analyze what's happened so far. We have put a lot of arms into the Syrian civil war, and in doing so, I think both us, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar put, I think, 600 tons of weapons in just in 2013. I think we've pushed back Assad, but as we've pushed back Assad, there's been a vacuum there and a space, and ISIS grew in that space. So I was one of the leading voices in 2013 saying to the president, even though Assad is an evil dictator, an evil person in charge of Syria, I didn't want to bomb him because my fear was that ISIS would be in charge of all of Syria if we bombed Assad. Sometimes there isn't an easy solution.
You're so right. I mean, we talk about this on the couch all the time. I know there's disagreement. I happen to agree with you 100%. We don't have a strategy in Syria. And Syria, to me, we start the no-fly zone, as I know some of your colleagues or competitors on the Republican side.
And some Democrats.
And some Democrats, and some Democrats as well. But I mean, you have, you know, your friend, and I use that in quotations, Chris Christie, saying he wants to start shooting down Russian planes. And I'm thinking, over what? To start World War III with Russia over Syria, where we don't have a strategy, and to prop up whom?
And here's
because, as you said, if Assad goes, who's filling that void? I don't happen to think there's any Democratic, with a small d, people standing up to take over Syria.
Here's the real problem with the no-fly zone. Hillary Clinton supports it, and a half a dozen Republicans support it. We have an airspace that Russia already flies in. So if you're going to say it's a no-fly zone and Russia's already in it, what you're essentially saying is we are going to shoot down Russian fighters
You have to
for the first time in 80 years. This is that's a declaration of war. And I think that's why we have to be very careful who we have as commander-in-chief, because you don't want a commander-in-chief who recklessly has an engagement for which there may not be a resolution. Also, for better or worse, Iraq invited Russia. And so did Syria. They've invited Russia. So they've both invited Russia to fly over their airspace. And so there isn't an easy solution. But like recently, like Carly Fiorina says, oh, she won't talk to Putin. And somebody else said, oh, I won't talk to China. It's like, well, my goodness, Reagan, who most Republicans think was a great president, continued to talk to the Russians throughout the whole Cold War.
When they had nukes pointed at us.
Exactly.
Last year, absolutely right.
All right, we're moving on. Paul Ryan is in it to win it. Congressman Ryan of Wisconsin launching his bid to become the next Speaker of the House. So how will he face the headwinds of a deeply divided GOP conference with some critical deadlines coming up? And Secretary of State John Kerry huddling with his Russian counterpart at this hour, trying to chart a new path in Syria, like we were just talking about with the senator here. Wonder what that conversation, though, is going like. I mean, do the Russians actually listen to us anymore?
Earning unlimited cash back on purchases, that's a win. But imagine earning it twice. You can with the Citi Double Cash Card. It lets you earn cash back twice. Once when you buy and again as you pay. It's cash back, then cash back again. And that's a cash back win-win. The Citi Double Cash Card, the only card that lets you earn cash back twice on every purchase. With 1% when you buy and 1% as you pay. With 2 ways to earn, it makes a lot of other cards seem one-sided.
Do you have tough cleaning jobs around your house? Calcium deposits, lime, rust stains, yuck. Well, clean up fast with CLR. CLR's powerful formula blasts through tough cleaning problems inside and outside the house. It tackles buildup on shower heads, even coffee pots. And CLR has an EPA designed for the environment seal, so it's safer for your family and the planet. CLR, tough on yuck, gentle on everything else.
CLR is available at these fine stores.
I'm Andy, and I lost 30 pounds on Nutrisystem.
Listen up, guys. Want to shed a few pounds this summer? Got a beer belly going on? Can't fit into your pants? I got one word for you, Nutrisystem.
I'm Essex, and I lost 43 pounds on Nutrisystem.
I'm Trevor, and I lost 60 pounds on Nutrisystem.
Lose weight fast with Nutrisystem's Fast 5 Plus Kit. You can lose weight too. Real guys, real results.
I'm Michael, and I lost 50 pounds on Nutrisystem.
Put down the pie, pick up the phone, and get with the program today. Lose 5 pounds in your first week, plus 1 inch off your waist or your money back, guaranteed.
The food was delicious.
If you're like me and you like to eat, this is what you get to do.
This is perfect for men, especially guys who don't want to cook.
So get off the couch and order your 28-day Nutrisystem plan right now. Get 1 week of energizing shakes free and 1 week of NutriCrush shakes free.
It's not that hard. You eat the food, you lose the weight.
Call 888-413-SIZE right now and get Fast 5 Plus with shakes free.
You never discriminate. You want everyone. The young, the old, the soft, the strong. But cancer, we're fighting you with immune therapies and genetic testing. With laughter, with strength. Because every one of us is doing one thing only. Making cancer history.
Gentlemen, it's the end of an era. At our last buy one, get 3 free sale ever. Buy one suit or sport coat, get 3 free. This offer will soon be history, so don't miss out. Only at Joseph A. Bank.
I was out for a bike ride. I didn't think I'd have a heart attack, but I did. I'm Mike, and I'm very much alive. Now my doctor recommends a Bayer aspirin regimen to help prevent another heart attack.
Be sure to talk to your doctor before you begin an aspirin regimen.
Hi, I'm William Devane. And right now, there's a serious discussion about who our next president will be. A Republican, a Democrat, an independent. The future of our country is hanging in the balance, which is why, as a good American, I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to vote, and I'm going to buy gold from Rosalind Capital. Buying gold from Rosalind helps protect me against runaway inflation and all that paper money being printed around the world by unstable governments. Whether you want new or old gold or premium collector coins, Rosalind has them all. And what you order is what you get. No gimmicks, no nonsense, no hassle. So do your part to protect your future. Vote and buy gold from Rosalind Capital. What's in your safe?
Call now and get a free gold kit, a free silver kit, and a free IRA transfer kit. Call 800-630-8900, 800-630-8900, 800-630-8900.
Welcome back. Congressman Paul Ryan making it official, declaring his bid for House Speaker after securing support from the three major political factions inside the House GOP conference. Ryan faces election next week in a closed-door meeting with his Republican colleagues and then on the House floor. If elected, he faces a long list of challenges, including a November 3rd deadline to raise the debt limit or face an unprecedented default, and a December 11th deadline on a must-pass spending measure to keep the government up and running. Not to mention trying to unify what has been a pretty fractious lower chamber. Senator, I want to get your take on this because a lot of conservatives aren't so happy with this pick. They feel that, you know, the Freedom Caucus sold out. Paul Ryan is a guy that is heavily backed by the establishment. They're afraid of a John Boehner light. What do you think? Do you think he'll dig his heels in on these important fiscal issues, or do you think conservatives are going to continue to be frustrated?
I think the biggest unhappiness, or the thing causing the most unrest and unhappiness among Republicans across the country, is they see that Republicans control the House, Republicans control the Senate, and they say, what are you guys doing? How come the spending's still going up? How come the deficit's still going up? And they hear sort of excuses from Washington. People in Washington say, oh, well, we don't have enough votes. We can't do it. Oh, we don't have the presidency. And people are frustrated and tired of it. So whether or not he succeeds or not, the real question is, are Republicans in Washington going to get a handle on spending? I frankly would not raise the debt ceiling unless we have significant reform. So I've introduced something called cut, cap, and balance. We'd cut the deficit in half, we'd cap the spending, and we would have a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution that says no more. We're done with this. We're only going to spend what comes in.
Now, that sounds like a great idea, but when you say something like that, do you think establishment Republicans will get behind that? Because let me tell you, conservatives out here constantly look at Republicans and we say, this is another version of the left. The numbers are just getting bigger and bigger in terms of debt, and they feel that when you suggest things like that, it's just a dead end, and they're not sure that Paul Ryan's going to be a vehicle to make something like that happen.
That's what elections are about. So we put forward our ideas and we decide, will the other Republicans accept them? Will the Democrats accept them? And if they don't, then we have an election again and you decide, do you want to keep electing the same people who are unwilling to do anything? I will tell you, in 2011, the president said on the debt ceiling, remember we had that big debt ceiling fight, and he said, I will not negotiate with a gun to my head.
Remember that.
And you know what he did? He negotiated.
Yeah.
So leverage works, but only if you're steadfast, only if you're courageous, and only if you say, I'm willing to go through the deadline. We'll go on. And here's the interesting thing about defaulting. We bring in about $250 billion a month in tax revenue. Interest on the debt, about $30 billion, 40 billion. So we have plenty of money to pay the interest. We have plenty of money to pay Social Security, Medicare, and our soldiers' salaries, and then that's about it.
That's interesting.
But then maybe we ought to have a debate on the 30 or 40% of whatever else is left that we don't have enough money for.
That's a great point. You know, Sandra, I remember during the 2012 election when he jumped on the Romney ticket, I remember Paul Ryan doing the talk radio rounds. He was on with my friend Mark Levin. I remember him saying, oh, we can repeal 85% of Obamacare via reconciliation. And he's been out there kind of rallying conservatives, especially at that time. Do you think that he'll stick to some of those things, that he's on record as having said that he would be a leader?
Well, his presence is certainly stuck, and he made a splash when he entered at that point. And he is sort of seen by some, many I should say, as the face and the future of the Republican Party. So there's a lot of talk about what this means politically, strategically for Paul Ryan. If he were to become Speaker, what does that do, Senator, for a potential White House run for Paul Ryan?
I think the question has always been, and this is the difficulty in Washington, some Republicans say, well, our job is to govern. Our job is to keep the government running and keep it open. And there are those of us who say, you know what, if you keep it open and you borrow $1 million a minute, you're going to destroy the country. So I didn't run for office because I wanted to be governing. I wanted to be in charge of something. I didn't need to be in charge of something. I ran for office because I was worried about the country, that we were borrowing $1 million a minute. So you have to weigh those two things, default and shut down versus borrowing $1 million a minute. I think if we continue to do the same and we govern, or any Republican, Paul Ryan or others, who comes in and if their main goal is to govern and not to reform, then I think it won't go well.
Wow, $1 million a minute.
Wow.
Now let's go on to Syria. We talked a little bit about it. We're going to go deeper now. Secretary of State John Kerry is meeting with his Russian counterpart for the very first time, a one-on-one meeting since Moscow started launching airstrikes over Syria last month. The leaders are also meeting with diplomats from Turkey and Saudi Arabia today as the White House tries to restart a diplomatic process to stop the Syrian civil war and, if possible, well, get rid of President Bashar al-Assad. Earlier this week, as you may know, Assad made a surprise visit to Moscow to thank Russian President Vladimir Putin for those airstrikes, I would imagine, and what appears to be a show of defiance to the West and a sign of Russia's effort to become an essential power broker in the region. Have we lost our mojo, Senator, with Russia and the rest of the world? Do they take us seriously?
I think the most important thing that we have to debate, and this is among presidential candidates and others, is should we be diplomatically engaged or should we diplomatically isolate ourselves? Many of the people on the stage, when I was debating with the other Republicans, were saying, oh, we shouldn't talk to Putin, we shouldn't do this, we shouldn't talk to China. And I think that's a form of diplomatic isolationism, and I don't think that's what we should be doing. We should engage. Does that mean Russia is always going to do what we want? No. But I think it's important, and I don't know if Kerry will get it right, but it's absolutely important that Kerry is talking to Russia, and we shouldn't try to stop that.
A lot of people are dying today. Yeah. I mean, whether it is the civil war that's happening in Syria or the people that ISIS is taking out as it builds its caliphate. So we don't have a lot of time.
That's true.
You know, and I look at this and the tapestry of what you're talking about. It's kind of that common sense view of staying engaged diplomatically. Is there something else we need to be doing right now?
I think we should also try to not do harm, and that means not get involved where the unintended consequences make it worse. I think by supporting the Islamic radicals, many of whom turned out to be jihadists, many of whom were al-Qaeda, and many of whom turned out to be ISIS in the Syrian civil war, we supported a side we never should have. We allowed them to grow stronger. We didn't create ISIS, but we allowed ISIS to be in a space, in a vacuum where they were allowed to grow larger, and I think we're worse off for it. I think we would have been better probably not to support evil on either side of that war.
Well, no, I think that's a really legitimate point, because every time I hear about the United States should be doing more, the question to me is what more should we be doing? And the inevitable answer is it boots on the ground? And if it's boots on the ground, where is it? Is it in Syria?
How long?
Is it in Libya? Is it in Iraq? Yeah. Is it, this is spreading all over the place. And next thing you know, we're engaged. We've been in the Middle East now for over a decade. We're going to be there for another 50 and 100 years. And as you know, Senator, the one thing people there know that we don't know is that one day we'll leave, but they'll still be there. Right. And so we can't prop up this regime, as you well know.
There's a way to tie this back into Benghazi. For example, what is the American interest we have in Syria? Well, we do have an embassy in Baghdad that needs to be protected. We have a consulate in Erbil in Kurdistan. Absolutely, without question, has to be defended. So that means we do have to have some involvement. Can we amplify our allies? Can we help the Kurds? I think we should also. But the real question is, do we want to send our sons and daughters by the hundreds of thousands back into Iraq? I'm not going to do that. And that's where I separate myself from the field on the Republican side. I'm not for another Iraq war. I thought the first one was a mistake, and I'm not sending our sons and daughters back into Iraq. I will defend American interests, but I'm not going to say that we're going to supplant or replace the Arab boots on the ground. The boots on the ground have to be people who live there. We can never do it for them. They will ultimately have to fight. We can help, but they need to fight.
I just want to quickly say, with respect to talking to Putin, I think the concern is, by a lot of people, is not talking to Putin. It's that, who do we have talking to Putin? So you can talk about Reagan, but we don't have a Reagan right now. We have John Kerry. And so they don't trust that a John Kerry or a Barack Obama will have those kinds of conversations, will dig their heels in, and will make Putin move to us instead of us moving to him.
I agree. You have to negotiate from a position of strength. So it is a mistake just to say, oh, Russia can have whatever they want, but it's also a mistake to have no discussion.
Agreed.
And so when you start having no discussion, there's a danger of an accident happening. They're already flying in that space. What we don't want is for them to shoot down one of our fighters or vice versa, and have it escalate into regional, if not maybe a world war. So I think the responsibility of being the leader of the free world, of being the commander-in-chief, is an enormous one, and I think we don't want people who are reckless. And I think that's part of what the debate will help to separate out, is who has a mature understanding and the wisdom and the judgment to be in charge of our nuclear arsenal.
I hope all of you get to go back over the Iran deal, because when you talk about giving somebody exactly what they want, that is the criticism of the Iran deal.
Absolutely.
The parts that we can see, not the side deals that we didn't get to see. All right. It's just one sign of government dysfunction. A watchdog alleging some DEA agents received bonuses, even though they were under investigation for taking part in sex parties funded by drug cartels. Yes, it's true. So is working in D.C. the ultimate job security?
How much money do you have in your pocket right now?
I have $40.
21? Could something that small make an impact on something as big as your retirement?
I don't think so.
Well, if you start putting that money towards your retirement every week and let it grow over time for 20, 30 years, that retirement challenge might not seem so big after all.
Prudential. Bring your challenges.
If you have moderate to severe plaque psoriasis, isn't it time to let the real you shine through? Introducing Otezla, a Premolast. Otezla is not an injection or a cream. It's a pill that treats plaque psoriasis differently. Some people who took Otezla saw 75% clearer skin after 4 months. And Otezla's prescribing information has no requirement for routine lab monitoring. Don't take Otezla if you are allergic to any of its ingredients. Otezla may increase the risk of depression. Tell your doctor if you have a history of depression or suicidal thoughts, or if these feelings develop. Some people taking Otezla reported weight loss. Your doctor should monitor your weight and may stop treatment. Side effects may include diarrhea, nausea, upper respiratory tract infection, and headache. Tell your doctor about all the medicines you take and if you're pregnant or planning to be. Ask your doctor about Otezla today. Otezla. Show more of you.
Do you know anyone who's met anyone on Match?
My ex-girlfriend met somebody. She's been with him for 2 years.
So you went different paths. Yours has led to hoping your friends get a lot better at setting you up.
Match. Start for free today.
If you're running a business, LegalZoom has your back. Over the last 10 years, we've helped 1 million business owners get started. Visit LegalZoom today for the legal help you need to start and run your business. LegalZoom. Legal help is here.
Looking for retirement security? Some options to make sure you and your family's financial resources last the distance? Well, a reverse mortgage with AAG could be just the answer you're looking for.
The amount in bills that we had was going up and up. And then we find out about this reverse mortgage, and it's like, wow, it's fantastic.
They gave me a lump sum of money to pay off any debt I have. That alone freed me up from a lot of worry about money.
Turning your home's equity into cash when you need it is a simple way to eliminate your existing monthly mortgage payments, pay off debt, and get you and your family the financial resources you need. If you're 62 or older and own your own home, then join more than 1 million Americans who've used a reverse mortgage as a safe, effective financial tool. Call us today to receive a free information pack with no obligation that contains a helpful 3-part guide and DVD. You'll receive a guide to reverse mortgages and how they work, including the many consumer safeguards that protect you and your home. Also, our important all-new reverse mortgage retirement planner that explains the many ways a reverse mortgage could provide stability and security for your retirement. We then add a guide filled with information for children and loved ones. It's got what you need to know about reverse mortgages and how they can play a vital role in your retirement plans.
Call 1-800-295-4616 right now to receive our all-new complete information pack, all absolutely free with no obligation.
Do not be afraid and go forward, and you will have such peace of mind.
Call 1-800-295-4616 right now to receive our all-new complete information pack with added retirement planning guide.
I would highly recommend AAG to my friends and my family.
Call 1-800-295-4616 right now.
Three signs of government dysfunction showing your tax dollars at work. A Justice Department watchdog alleging that DEA agents still received bonuses even though they were under investigation for reportedly having sex parties with prostitutes hired by drug cartels. And nice work if you can get it. Talk about cashing a paycheck. Nearly 100 employees at Homeland Security have been on paid leave for more than a year. This according to DHS. Then there's the Secret Service getting another black eye. Federal auditors finding 2 agents sleeping on the job. One of them at the White House and the other reportedly stationed at the Israeli embassy. Senator, I interviewed 2 former Navy SEALs yesterday, one of them Leif Babin, Jenna's husband, and they said the #1 rule to leading is accountability. Owning your mistakes, admitting them. It doesn't sound like there's a whole lot of that going on in Washington, and it just gets worse.
the stuff that's really insulting with what's going on with some of the federal employees really ought to be stopped. And I'll give you an example. When we had the shutdown a year or two ago, they had us fill out forms to say, are your employees essential or unessential? So we found out that the IRS said 90% of their employees were unessential. We thought, oh, wow, maybe we're going to learn something here. But you know what it turns out? If you're unessential during a shutdown, you don't have to come in, but you still get paid.
Wow.
So during the government shutdown, we paid more money than we do when it's open, and we got no work done. So we had to pay all of the people not to work.
Why doesn't it change? Nothing ever changes, Jedediah.
It's true, and it saturates every area. You know, I'm always talking about the impossibility of getting rid of bad teachers. I mean, in education, this is people associate government jobs with, well, you know what? I'm not going to get fired. I'm not going to, if I do a bad job, if I'm involved in some scandal, and I'm not sure how you change it other than to eliminate this overstuffed bureaucracy and start really streamlining it. And the problem is there's just too many people. The government doesn't keep track of anyone. If you wound up starting to fire some of these people, clean some of these nonsensical jobs out, I guarantee you half these non-essential jobs could just vanish from the earth and no one would be missing anything because most of these people aren't doing anything. That's why they're called non-essential.
You remember when John Stossel? You remember when John Stossel did the program on education?
Yes.
I do.
All of these people that were just horrible people that had touched kids inappropriately and shouldn't be around kids.
Yes.
They were still housing them in a big building in New York and couldn't fire them. Remember the VA scandal?
Yes.
People dying in the waiting line, couldn't fire them. But it's just time after time. I mean, I can tell you 100 stories of the federal government not just doing a bad job, but doing malfeasance, the employees doing something either illegal or immoral, and we can't fire
Julie,
them.
the Secret Service, I mean,
I'm with you.
This is a mess. I mean, the men and women who are charged with protecting the White House and our president, they found 2 Secret Service personnel sleeping at the White House, which the report says highlights fatigue, overtime, and long hours as problems.
My favorite line from one of these articles is, of the 50 employees that the DEA's Board of Professional Conduct recommended for firing following misconduct allegations, 13 were terminated, and a lot of them were forced to be taken back by some federal appeals board. I mean, Senator, I used to live in D.C. You know, there's nothing more sure as the sun comes up in the east at 4:30 p.m. The Beltway is jam-packed with people getting out of Dodge because people check in, they work their allotted hours, they check out, and there's no accountability. And I agree with you. Listen, this has been a problem. It will continue to be a problem. You're absolutely right. Teachers have a hard time getting fired.
When they
Federal employees do. It's
investigated
unbelievable.
the EPA, they found one guy that was downloading porn 6 hours a day on his government computer. They couldn't fire him. They found another woman that was selling jewelry and vitamins from her computer. She still works there.
Yeah, of course.
But the coup de grace was they found a guy who said he worked for the CIA. Remember this? He was in the news, Jonathan Beale. And for 11 years, he was like the right-hand man to Gina McCarthy. He was way up high in the EPA. He said he worked for the CIA, and that's why he was missing a lot of times and wasn't at work. And it just was completely made up.
I'm going to try that excuse one day. That's going to be my go-to excuse. Yeah, it wouldn't work.
No.
I'll see you guys later. I might be joining the CIA.
All right. Well, moving on, he went from serving his country in Iraq to studying at one of America's most elite universities and coming under attack for an op-ed in the student paper. What he wrote that sparked ugly protests and got funding for the paper slashed.
Researchers discovered a protein that supports a healthier brain, now available in the supplement Prevagen. Prevagen has been clinically shown to improve memory. It's safe and effective for support of a healthier brain, a sharper mind, and clearer thinking. Try Prevagen today.
Get fast-acting, long-lasting relief from heartburn with doctor-recommended Gaviscon. It neutralizes stomach acid and is the only product that forms a protective barrier that helps keep stomach acid in the stomach where it belongs. For fast-acting, long-lasting relief, try Gaviscon.
I say we go all in on the Internet of Things.
What we're recommending is your consultants.
The new consultants are here. It's not just big data. It's bigger data.
We're beta testing the new wearable.
Everybody's talking at me. We're thinking hyperconvergence. Along with I don't hear words saying.
Xerox believes finding the right solution shouldn't be so much work. By engineering a better way for people, process, and technology to work together, work can work better with Xerox.
At Northrop Grumman, we've been developing new ways to execute the mission. What once was seen now stays undetected. Where alarms were once raised, now there's silence. With our full-spectrum cyber capabilities, our military can eliminate enemy threats at the push of a button. That's the value of performance. Northrop Grumman.
Scare tactics. Some are using fear to push the debt ceiling, but what's the truth about the deadline? Plus, benefits versus cost in the Benghazi hearings. All on the BizBlock, Saturday.
Now, no matter where you live, you can enjoy high-speed internet with HughesNet Gen 4, America's #1 choice for satellite internet.
My old connection just wasn't cutting it. Now I finally have high-speed internet that works where I live.
Now getting homework done is easier than ever.
Now my internet is so much faster. So is my bike.
HughesNet Gen 4 is faster and better than ever. Enjoy more of what you love to do online. Call 1-800-427-1852.
Now I can stay close to my grandson, even from here.
Now I don't have to drive 100 miles to find shoes like these.
With HughesNet, you can live where you love and enjoy faster surfing, downloading, shopping, videos, music, and more. Don't waste another minute on a slow internet connection. Call today and get free standard installation for a limited time. Call 1-800-427-1852.
Your paycheck. Your family depends on it. But if something happened to you, you need life insurance. And chances are SelectQuote can get it for you for under $1 a day. SelectQuote found Alec, 38, a $500,000 policy for under $23 a month. SelectQuote found Kenesha, 39, a $350,000 policy for under $14 a month. SelectQuote's secret? They impartially shop a select group of highly rated companies like these for your best rates. Give your family the security it needs at a price you can afford.
Since 1985, SelectQuote has saved customers hundreds of dollars. Call SelectQuote now, 1-800-350-0100, or visit SelectQuote.com. Discover what over 1 million families now know. We shop, you save. Call now.
More Outnumbered in just a moment. But first, let's go to John Scott with what's coming up in the second hour of Happening Now. Hey, John.
Harris, we'll see in about 12 minutes with this. A disturbing loophole for a nation that's trying to fix the immigration system. Is there a danger of those who come here and overstay their visas? We'll get into that. Also, the biggest hurricane ever recorded is heading for the Mexican border. We will update you on that and visit one of the busiest land border crossings in the world. It's all ahead on Happening Now.
I tell you what, you look at Hurricane Patricia, and it almost doesn't fit on the screen.
I know,
John.
It's monstrous.
We'll see you in a bit.
Really scary.
Yeah, thank you.
Harris, thank you.
Free speech is under assault once again on America's college campuses. The author of an op-ed that criticized the Black Lives Matter movement and was published in a Wesleyan University newspaper, speaking out after it sparked major backlash. The student government there voting to slash funding for that paper by more than half following reports of protests on campus and students stealing and destroying newspapers. The author of the column, an Iraq War veteran, says he has been screamed at on campus and called a racist. In his column, he questioned the anti-police tactics common among the protesters, saying, quote, "At some point, Black Lives Matter is going to be confronted with an uncomfortable question. Is this all worth it? At what point will Black Lives Matter go back to the drawing table and rethink how they are approaching the problem?" On Fox and Friends this morning, he spoke out about the chilling effect of censorship from a determined, vocal minority.
The meddling of the student government in campus paper is also very disturbing. I mean, these are students that will go on to be in leadership positions, and if they think that the government has a right to dictate what a paper can and can't do, that's not good.
This was really interesting to me, Senator, because this was driven by student government. This is not coming from administration, and we often talk about administration being biased, but the president of the university actually came out and said, no, the slashing of this funding is wrong. My question to you is, you are someone who has done an incredible amount of outreach on college campuses. I just spoke at Fordham University. When I say the name Rand Paul, they get excited because they know you're someone that cares about outreach to youth. How can you go into these schools? You've gone to Berkeley, you've gone to Howard University, talk about issues with these kids like privacy and whatnot, whatnot, and change the culture on campus so that they don't think that conservative is a bad word anymore, and you can reshape the culture of what's happening in academia?
I think young people aren't necessarily conservative, but I think they do love liberty.
Right.
They want to be left alone. They're sort of coming out from under their parents' yoke, and they want to be free. They want to make their own decisions. And so the political correctness that stifles their free speech, they don't like that. I also think they don't like the government collecting all their phone records without a warrant. If you even my kids, I text them sometimes in the basement. So I mean, we communicate, unfortunately, sometimes not at the dinner table. We don't text at the dinner table, but you can see how they would not like their records, because a lot of their life and their friends and all their communication with their friends goes through their phone. They wouldn't want the government looking at that. So they're absolutely my best allies on campuses are kids. When I was speaking at a college campus the other day, though, and they had a platform, and for some reason the platform was very small, it was about 10 feet by 10 feet, and I said, oh, this must be the free speech zone on campus. Because they actually have zones where they confine you.
Right.
And you step outside the zone. Oh, don't say that. No freedom of speech outside the zone. But no, First Amendment, Fourth Amendment freedoms, I think our kids are really into that. And I don't think it's conservative or liberal. It's sort of libertarian or liberty.
Yeah, that's so true. Listen, I'm obviously liberal, and let me tell you something. This offends me more than anything else on earth. Hey, kids, if you don't like something, why don't you listen to it and then decide to agree or disagree? I hate the stifling of free speech. This is the most sacrosanct right that we have.
The way they're acting on it, too, is mind-blowing. I mean, think Condoleezza Rice. Who else was it? Christine Lagarde. They were set to address college campuses, and then a few spoke out and pretty much pushed them out, right? And then we had comedians. Jerry Seinfeld stood up and said he will no longer deliver a commencement address because the college students can't take a joke anymore. President Obama has even spoken on this, complaining that college students are, quote, coddled and protected from different points of view. Would you say it's worse now than it ever has been?
Definitely worse than when I was a kid. But I think also part of growing and learning about ideas and being able to express yourself is hearing both sides. I love seeing op-eds on both sides. I like in the classroom presenting sort of both sides and letting them argue. My youngest son does debate, and he comes home with the issues, and then he says, well, I got to do the pro and the con. So he has to learn both sides of the issue, but you learn your opponents and you learn the strength and weaknesses of both sides. But if you ban one side, or you ban it because, oh, that's a sensitive subject, we're not going to talk about it. College should be the absolute place. People are not yet decided. This is a great place to have discussion, and if you ban discussion on college campuses because it's politically incorrect, that's a real problem.
Particularly this issue, though, because it's so divided the nation.
Right.
You know, and it's very sad as a person of color to see them not be able to work out their differences and really talk and get juicy in that issue, because it's important.
Absolutely.
Right. And I would also say that I'm very much, well, I'm not a big fan of sort of Black Lives Matter, because I think it sounds like only Black Lives Matter, that it should be every. But I am very much, and from coming from a different place, I was middle class, upper middle class. My dad's a physician. But I have learned a lot about the anger in our cities, and that there is no justification for violence, but there is anger, and we need to understand it. And the story that I tell is the story of Khalif Browder, who was a 16-year-old black kid from the Bronx who was arrested but never convicted of a crime and spent 3 years in Rikers. And when I think of people who are angry in our cities, I think of his family. He ended up committing suicide. He was in solitary confinement for 2 years, never convicted of a crime. When I think of his classmates in high school or his family, I think, gosh, if I was his friend, I'd be really unhappy and angry at the system, at the man. So I am starting to understand where the anger comes from, and that we need to fix things as far as the law and criminal justice in our system.
That's a great point.
Because it isn't being meted out fairly.
That's a great
Free speech is critical. We got to
more
talk
about that in the future. The office of the President of the United States, without a doubt, it's an awesome responsibility. And in his new book, Why Our #OneLuckyGuy says faith is the single most important common thread connecting those who have held the world's most important job. That's coming up next.
Before earning enough cash back from Bank of America to take their act to the next level. Before earning 1% cash back everywhere, every time. 2% back at the grocery store. And 3% back on gas. Vince of the Flying Branzinos got a Bank AmeriCard Cash Rewards credit card. Because he may earn his living jumping through hoops, but he'd rather not earn cash back that way. That's the spectacle of rewarding connections. Apply online or at a Bank of America near you.
These are the faces of arthritis, and when they have pain, they turn to Australian Dream. Here's why they love it.
Australian Dream doesn't burn, and there's no odor.
There's real medicine in there. It's effective pain relief.
I bought it because of the money-back guarantee. I keep buying it because it works.
If you're one of the faces of arthritis, get Australian Dream. It's effective relief for arthritis backed by the empty jar guarantee. Back pain? Try Australian Dream Back Pain Cream. Real medicine, trusted relief.
What was once simple isn't so simple anymore. Yet you just can't be there for them all the time. But we can.
Looks like the mail came in early today.
At Home Instead, we understand. It's why we offer individualized care for every unique situation to keep your aging loved ones safe and sound. At home, instead of anywhere else. Call or visit us at homeinstead.com.
Big day? The usual. Moved some new cars. Hauled a bunch of steel. Kept the supermarket shelves stocked. Made sure everyone got their latest gadgets. What's up for the next shift?
Nothing much. Just keeping the lights on.
Nice.
Doing the big things that move an economy.
See you tomorrow, Mac.
See you tomorrow, Sam.
Just another day at Norfolk Southern.
This is Todd Hardy, a fitness buff, youth baseball coach, and lung cancer patient.
The day that I got the diagnosis, I was just shocked. The surgeon in Dallas said I needed to have the top left lobe of my lung removed. I wanted to know what my other options were, and I found that at Cancer Treatment Centers of America.
At CTCA, our experts examine a variety of therapies, treatments, and technologies to identify a plan specifically for each patient.
My doctor understood that who I am was just as important as what cancer I had. We talked about options. My doctor told me about a robotic surgery that was less invasive.
We have excellent technology that allow us to perform very specialized procedures for patients who have lung disease.
At CTCA, it's all about what you can do. I feel fantastic now.
Exploring treatment options is at the heart of how we fight cancer. The evolution of cancer care is here. Learn more about our treatment options at cancercenter.com/lung. Appointments available now.
I brought in some protein to get us moving.
I'm new Ensure Active High Protein. I help you recharge with nutritious energy and strength. I'll take that.
New Ensure Active High Protein. 16 grams of protein and 23 vitamins and minerals. Ensure. Take life in.
Freshen up your fall look with a new suit. For 4 days only, select suits are only $179.99. Plus, buy one, get one free on even more fashionable fall favorites. Men's Warehouse. Follow your style.
Faith, our hashtag One Lucky Guy, believes it is the single most important common thread uniting all American presidents. It's also the subject of his brand new book, Our Presidents and Their Prayers. So, Senator, a libertarian writing about God, you say there's a connection.
Well, you know, I want people to be free. I want them to be left alone, but I don't want them to do anything. I want you to be free to do what you wish, but I don't want you to do anything. So to believe in freedom doesn't mean that I'm a libertine, that I do anything or want people to do anything. I think society has structure because people have virtue. So, for example, I think everybody's not out robbing and stealing because there's a law against it. I think most of us believe in good and evil, right and wrong, and we have a religious foundation. One theologian put it this way, he said, liberty requires restraint, but the only type of restraint consistent with liberty is self-restraint. So government can't tell you to be a good person, but for society to function in a good way and to have civilization, you need a good people. You need a people who believe in faith.
And I know in this book you follow the path of other presidents, you know, G.W. Bush, I know that's one, Kennedy, just their path kind of through their faith too.
Well, it's a common link to all of them. All of the presidents that we've had have had some faith as sort of their undergirding, as something that sort of propelled them along, but so is our country. And one way to look at the difference is American Revolution versus French Revolution. We overthrew the king, but we kept our faith, we kept our religious background, we kept our democratic assemblies. In France, they gave it up all, and they ended up in chaos.
So glad you were here.
Senator,
you threatened to walk out at 30 minutes, but you stayed for 60. All right, good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. We're back on Monday at noon Eastern. Happening Now starts right now.